What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another brand new video. So this past week, the House had recently passed a new act called the HEROES Act. That is pretty much just second round of stimulus, some minor differences, but it still has to get through Congress, and then finally President Trump, who will sign it into law. So there's a whole lot of issues and party divides. We won't be covering it in this video, but there is some key theories and perspectives that I think would come out of this. And that is really the whole idea of UBI. So if you don't know what UBI is, don't worry, we're going to be covering it in this video. I'll also be going over the pros and cons. And then towards the end of the video, we'll go over the portfolio as an update, how it's been doing, and what have I really been doing this week. So first off, what is UBI? It is a governmental public program for a periodic payment delivered to all on an individual basis without a means test or work requirement. So this is pretty much just free governmental money. This is like back-to-back stimulus at a consistent frame of time. So this could be monthly, yearly, quarterly, however much time, but generally it is considered to be a monthly payments. So the idea has really come forth by Andrew Yang, who was a 2020 former presidential candidate. He did drop out of the race, but his main idea that he was promoting was UBI, and that was giving $1,000 to every American. So that amounts to $12,000 a year to every American. It's a very large amount of money, but it was a very influential new idea that most Americans had never really heard of. I didn't even hear about it until I heard it from Andrew Yang, and it was kind of interesting and unique take on how we distribute the money here in America. There are some pros, there are some cons, so we're going to get into it right now, and we're going to start off with the cons. Alright, so first, the cons. So some potential issues that can come along with giving everyone $1,000 a month would be wrongful use. Would they use it for drugs or alcohol? Now I know there have been many studies that really show that once you give people money, they typically don't spend it on drugs or alcohol. I can't name those studies off the top of my head. If I find a study and its source, I will link in the description below, so look out for that. But that kind of ties into the second point, which may be laziness. If you're getting $1,000 a month, then why work? This is a whole issue on a more of a personal level, like people contributing to society and being productive. But if you're getting $1,000 a month, it really does raise the question, why work? Now, I don't know if there's any studies on this. Again, if I find one, I'll link it in the description below. But really the main con with this whole UBI system is really how expensive it is. So this little math equation and math problem I laid out right here really details how expensive this is. So this 209 million right here is the amount of Americans who are 18 and over. And if we were to give them $12,000 a year, which is the $1,000 a month, from my calculation, that is $2.5 trillion. But on the source I read, it can state up to $3 trillion. So if we look at the 2019 US governmental spending, it was $4.4 trillion. I can't use 2020's numbers because they're skewed currently by the coronavirus and the whole stimulus checks, but if we look at these numbers, they are more than half of the whole US governmental spending. If we were to tack this on, that would be so expensive. Now, there are different ways we could bring down this number and really throw this in and make it cheaper and find alternatives. So we're going to cover that in the pros. But just an idea that this is really expensive we're talking about, giving every American $1,000 a month. So just kind of coming back to Andrew Yang, one of his main things really concerning with UBI was automation. He says there could be a potential loss of 4 million jobs due to automation alone. So UBI could be used as kind of a cushion to help workers keep income, keep money coming in as we kind of go through the whole transformation of automation and technology. Second pro would be the investment in the people. If you give people $1,000 a month, they could use it on school, maybe learn a trade, or continue their education. So that's obviously a positive. Next is this theory called true freedom. True freedom is really the theory that no one has true freedom unless you truly have the power to do what you want. And UBI could enable that true freedom, that if you give people $1,000 a month, they won't have to worry about finances and money. You can truly do what you want. So next are some obvious with UBI, such as gender equality. As we know, there is a wage gap between males and females, and this could really help with that. And also really reduce poverty. You know, if you give people $1,000 a month, this is just going to lift the poverty threshold and really bring those people out. And that really ties into eliminating the welfare trap. So the welfare trap is more of a cycle that really encourages people to stay on welfare. So if you give people welfare, they stay on it, they try to better themselves, they go out looking for a job, and they're relying on that welfare. Sometimes the welfare can actually pay more than if you were actually working. So why work if you can just stay on the welfare? It's really a whole trap. And that really ties, is UBI better than welfare? Should we just scrap the whole cobweb system we have and just give people UBI? I mean, it could be cheaper and bring down the total cost of UBI if we were just to scrap the whole system and then replace it with UBI. Could it be simpler? I don't know, but it's a whole idea that I'm kind of bringing forth. Could it be better? I'm not sure. So if you ask me, I think UBI is awesome. I really wish we could implement this somehow, and really in the future looking more towards like how we can implement this to really bring people out of poverty and give people more income that they can really use to better themselves, or maybe throwing it into investments. So Andrew Yang really pushed this whole idea into the American public and really brought forth it. I'm all for a UBI. I know it can be expensive, but I also think it could be better than welfare. So we could just scrap that whole system, but that's a whole issue on itself. But nonetheless, I am for UBI. And last, I would just like to get into some portfolio updates. This last week, I only bought one stock of one share because that's all I can really afford, and that was ADP. ADP stands for Automatic Data Processing Incorporated. They mainly deal with the processing and handling of companies and their employees' labor and pretty much their payment checks. So I've worked 3 jobs in my life, and all of them on my pay stubs came from ADP. So I'm pretty familiar with ADP, and they've always been on my mind as oh, okay, that's who my company sources to give me my checks, whatnot. But I would like to point out some key things of why I really am fascinated with ADP recently and why I think it could be a big play. If we look back at their 6-month chart, they really topped at around 180. They bottomed at about 110, and they're at 134 right now. That's about a $40 to $50 range from their top in potential profits once we get there. And as the economy starts to reopen and people start getting jobs, ADP, I'm pretty sure, is going to be in the forefront of really raising the stock price. Everyone's going to be working. They're going to be maybe raising their dividend, probably keeping it the same. But I think it's a really big play and potential as we start to reopen. So if we look here at kind of their more analytics, we can see they have a dividend yield of 2.7%. Pretty nice. They pay out $3.64 per share. That's looking really nice. With the payout ratio of 63%, so it's right over that sweet spot. Just a tad, but still perfect ratio. They have some growth of 21 years. They pay out 91 cents a share every quarter. That's freaking awesome. And if we look at their history of all time, let me load it up. Look at this growth. It's looking phenomenal. So if we head back to my chart, ADP just seemed like a solid ad for my portfolio as we start to reopen. I think it's going to have major prospects, some long growth, and they're still keeping their dividend, which finally brings me over to $32.16, which I'm freaking hyped about. It's awesome. It's not a lot of money, but that's the point of the channel. I'm small, and you guys are coming along for the ride to see me grow this dividend portfolio. And that has been the video. So let me know what you guys think of UBI. Comment down below, leave a like, leave me some suggestions about the portfolio, and pretty much what do you guys think about the whole second round of stimulus. So let me know down below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.